the city beneath the code. He found a glitch in the city's data. What he uncovered was a secret buried for a century, and a truth someone would kill to keep hidden. Kalen was a creature of patterns, a man whose world was delineated by the clean, logical lines of code and data that structured the city's sprawling municipal systems. His life was a quiet rhythm of keystrokes and validation scripts, a predictable current in the chaotic ocean of urban existence. He found a strange comfort in the absolute certainty of numbers, in the way they could be balanced, reconciled, and made to confess their truths. It was this obsessive precision that first snagged his attention on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of gray, listless day that usually bled into the next without incident. He was running a diagnostic on the water utility grid for the old industrial sector, a largely forgotten quadrant of the city left to rust and decay, when the anomaly appeared. It wasn't a dramatic error, not a system crash or a glaring red flag, but something far more subtle, almost shy. A ghost in the machine. A series of century-old cast-iron water mains were listed as decommissioned in one database, but showed intermittent, minuscule pressure readings in another, deep-level sensor log. They were phantom pulses, too faint for any automated system to flag, too insignificant for any other analyst to waste a second thought on. But for Kalen, it was a discordant note in a perfectly composed symphony. It was wrong. The pipes were supposed to be dead, filled with nothing but stagnant water and a century of silt. Yet something was moving through them. The thought burrowed into his mind, a persistent splinter he couldn't ignore. His work was his sanctuary, and this anomaly was a violation of its sanctity. After logging off for the day, the logical, predictable world of his office felt constricting. The pull of the unknown was stronger than his desire for routine. He drove his unassuming sedan toward the skeletal remains of the industrial district, the setting sun casting long, distorted shadows that made the derelict warehouses look like slumbering beasts. The air here tasted different, thick with the metallic tang of rust and the damp, earthy smell of neglect. He found the access point mentioned in the old schematics, a heavy, circular iron lid set into the cracked concrete behind what was once a textile mill. It was crusted with decades of grime, but faint, almost imperceptible scratches marred its edge. Recent scratches. A cold prickle, entirely separate from the evening chill, traced a path down his spine. He wasn't the first person to be here. The feeling of being watched descended upon him, a heavy, invisible cloak. He scanned the rows of shattered windows, the gaping doorways of the surrounding buildings. Nothing, just the wind whispering through broken glass. Then a flicker of movement in the deep twilight, a fleeting silhouette against the bruised purple sky, standing atop a distant gantry. It was a figure, impossibly still, observing him. The shape was slender, defined, exuding a sense of purpose that was utterly alien to this place of decay. The anomaly in his data was no longer just a technical puzzle, it had a guardian. And Kalen knew, with a sudden gut-wrenching certainty, that he had just trespassed into a world that was never meant to be found. A world that operated on rules far older and more dangerous than any line of code he had ever written. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound, filled with the unspoken threat of that distant, watchful presence. He had pulled a thread, and now he had to see what, or who, was attached to the other end, no matter how terrifying the answer might be. The quiet order of his life had just been irrevocably shattered. The image of the silhouetted figure became a permanent fixture in Kalen's mind, a silent sentinel haunting the periphery of his thoughts. Sleep offered little escape, his dreams filled with labyrinthine tunnels and the low, resonant hum of unseen machinery. The initial spark of professional curiosity had been consumed by a fire of pure, unadulterated obsession, a feeling so potent it left a coppery taste in his mouth. He began to live a double life. By day, he was the same meticulous, unassuming data clerk, his face a mask of placid concentration as he performed his duties. But by night, his small apartment transformed into a command center, a chaotic collage of the city's forgotten history. He spent hours cross-referencing old public works blueprints, zoning maps from forgotten eras, and digitized municipal archives, his fingers flying across the keyboard with a feverish intensity. He was mapping the ghost network, tracing the path of the dead water mains. What he uncovered was far more intricate than he could have imagined. It wasn't a water system. It was a repurposed pneumatic tube network, a relic from a bygone era of communication. Its arteries twisting beneath the modern city like a secret circulatory system. It connected not just the industrial district but key, sensitive points across the metropolis. The basements of old financial institutions, forgotten subway spurs, and even a sealed-off access tunnel near the city's central data hub. This was a hidden highway, a ghost road for moving things unseen. The realization of what he had stumbled upon was a physical weight, pressing down on his chest. This was not the work of urban explorers or hobbyists. The scale, the precision, the sheer audacity of it spoke of a sophisticated and well-funded operation. And they knew he was looking. The subtle warnings began a week after his visit to the mill. A file on his work desk, one he was certain he had squared away, was left slightly askew. His home computer's activity log showed a remote login at 3:17 a.m., an access that lasted only a few seconds, leaving no trace of what was done. These were not overt threats, but delicate, surgical intrusions designed to unsettle, to let him know he was transparent to them. The true message arrived on a rain-slicked evening. Tucked into the frame of his apartment door was a small, perfectly smooth, polished obsidian token, cool and heavy in his palm. It was an object of stark, minimalist beauty, and it screamed a silent warning. There was no note, no explanation needed. It was a calling card. It meant we see you. We can reach you. Stop. Any rational person would have erased the files, burned the maps, and retreated back into the safety of their predictable life. But the architects of this silent war had misjudged Kalen. They saw a meek clerk, a man of numbers and routines. They didn't see the core of unyielding stubbornness that lay beneath, the part of him that could not abide a puzzle unsolved, a system corrupted. The token did not frighten him into submission. It solidified his resolve. They had acknowledged him. They had made it personal. He now had a piece of their world, a physical artifact of their existence. He held the cold stone in his hand and felt not fear, but a strange, chilling sense of connection. He was no longer just an observer. He was a player in a game he didn't understand, against an opponent who was everywhere and nowhere at once. His quest for answers had transformed into a fight for a truth. He was now certain the city needed to know. The game had to end. Kalen understood that the next move would be decisive, that the subtle warnings would inevitably escalate into a final, silencing action. He couldn't go to the authorities. He had no concrete proof, only a web of circumstantial data that would sound like the paranoid ramblings of a conspiracy theorist. The system he had uncovered was designed to be invisible, its masters experts in moving through the cracks of society. To expose them, he had to use their own methods against them: precision, access, and anonymity. His target was the network's heart, its central control hub, which his research had pinpointed to a sub-basement in a decommissioned power substation, a place that officially didn't exist on any modern city map. He knew that a direct assault was suicide. His weapon wouldn't be force but information. His entire plan hinged on a single, audacious act of data warfare. For 2 sleepless nights he coded, his fingers a blur, building a digital key. It was a complex worm designed to do one thing: access the pneumatic network's internal control system and reroute its operational logs. Every transfer, every destination, every timestamp. Not to a single server, but to dozens of public data repositories and the servers of every major independent news outlet in the country, all at once. It was a data bomb, set to detonate with undeniable, widespread proof. The night he chose was moonless, the sky a blanket of impenetrable black. He didn't go near the substation. Instead, he sat in a nondescript 24-hour laundromat several blocks away, the scent of bleach and warm cotton a surreal counterpoint to the tension coiling in his gut. Using the laundromat's public Wi-Fi and a series of encrypted relays, he launched his attack. For a moment that stretched into an eternity, nothing happened. Then his screen flickered. Access granted. He executed the final command. The worm was in. He watched as terabytes of encrypted data began to flood the public domain, an unstoppable digital torrent. He could almost imagine the silent, frantic alarms blaring in the hidden control hub, the moment of shocked realization on the face of the silhouetted figure. He severed his connection, wiped his machine, and calmly walked out of the laundromat, melting into the city's late-night anonymity. He never looked back. Weeks turned into a month. The story broke, first as a trickle of digital oddities, then as a flood. The Phantom Network, the media called it. The leaked data was irrefutable, leading authorities on a chase through the city's underbelly, uncovering a smuggling operation of unprecedented scale. Names of powerful figures began to surface, followed by quiet arrests and high-profile resignations. The organization, built on secrecy, crumbled under the harsh glare of public exposure. One afternoon, Kalen stood in a bustling city square, just another face in the crowd. On the massive electronic billboard overhead, a news anchor was detailing the final dismantling of the network. He watched the images of federal agents storming the very substation he had identified. His heart a steady, calm rhythm in his chest. There was no fanfare for him, no recognition. No one would ever know the role played by the quiet data clerk. He had faced the monster and won, not by slaying it, but by showing it to the world. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. He turned and walked away, disappearing back into the city's flow. His world once again a place of quiet order, but forever changed by the knowledge of the secrets that lie just beneath the surface, and the power of one man who refused to ignore a single, discordant note.